All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about Tim Bradley dissing Errol Spence Jr. again while he's talking to Terence Crawford and about the problem with making the biggest fight in the world. However, everything that he says turns around, flies in his face when it becomes known that Terence Crawford has visited the Golden Boy offices to talk about his fight, having a fight with Alexis Roche next. Man, you cannot make this stuff up. Also, just want to let you know, later in this video, as we discuss it, I bring up that Terence Crawford was ringside at the Alexis Roche fight. That is a misstatement. What I intended to say was that he made a visit to Golden Boy's offices ahead of the Alexis Roche fight. But all in all, the point's the same. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, man, we are going to talk about the 147-pound division. Timothy Bradley is a wild man and really sneak dissed Errol Spence Jr. something heavy during the Arthur Beterviev versus Anthony Yarde fight, only to have what he said turn around and fly right back at him when Terence Crawford goes ringside for an Alexis Roche fight. Now, before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, if you are a longtime subscriber and supporter, thank you so much for your continued support. It really is what allows the channel to continue to go. So let's get into this, man. Tim Bradley is a former world champion, a recent or soon to be inductee into the Boxing Hall of Fame. Now, congratulations to him for being inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. But what he's been spitting on ESPN, he needs to be inducted into the International Hall of BS, because it's just extremely, extremely consistent with this guy, man. And I try to cut him a break a lot of times because I understand he works for ESPN. But yesterday, considering the totality of everything that happened, man, just stop. So in the middle of this telecast, Tim Bradley, first of all, Arthur Beterbiev knocked out Anthony Yarde like anybody with brain cells knew was going to happen. It was not going to be a close fight. Anthony Yarde is not that level of fighter. They had a fight over there in the UK, and I'm sure if Anthony Yarde had been able to stay awake for the entire fight, that he probably would have got the decision, seen as he was up on some cards before he got stopped. However, look, it's like, as I told somebody on Twitter, there's three things that you can bet on: death, taxes, and a UK fighter falling short. Okay. Now, every once in a while, you may get a pass. You may slip something past on your taxes. You know, everybody passes away, but UK fighters, you got one or two that will show up during big fights at any given time. And Anthony Yarde was not one of them, because Anthony Yarde had already got knocked out by a guy in Sergey Kovalev I don't think he was as good as Arthur Beterbiev at any point in time in his career. But he was definitely much further along in his career when he stopped Anthony Yarde. Anthony Yarde keeps his hands low. It was going to happen. So anyway, that happens. But in the telecast, Tim Bradley says, you know, talking about these big fights that don't get made and the problems with these big fights that do not get made, right? Clearly taking a shot at Errol Spence Jr. right? Not Terence Crawford, but Errol Spence Jr., right? Even though they talked very, very little. I think Andre Ward might have mentioned for a very little amount of time about the fact that Dmitry Bivol and Beterviev is an undisputed title. And also, those guys have been in that division since 2017 with no car accidents, no retinal tears, none of that. And they haven't been able to make that fight. So you think that they would press on that big fight taking place. But the reason that I say that it all falls apart for him is that later that evening, Terence Crawford actually goes ringside goes and attends a fight for Alexis Roche. Now, if anybody doesn't know who Alexis Roche is a fighter that fights with Golden Boy, and he's someone that lost a fight to Speedy Rashidi Ellis, somebody that just lost to Villa. So not a top caliber welterweight by any stretch of the imagination. Alex Roche may be ranked within an individual division. I think he's going to wind up being like the number one guy in the WBO because Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz left it and Keith Thurman's not in it. But I don't think anybody in their mind consider Alexis Roche to be anywhere near the top guy. So you have Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, who fought in December. And if you have Errol Spence Jr. fight in May, in the April-May timeframe, you should be looking to have those guys fight at the end of the year, right? But note this. If you recall, Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford went to the Danny Garcia fight, was ringside for the Danny Garcia fight. He was not ringside for the fight with Yordanis Ugas. Did not go to that fight. As a result, did not go to that fight and wound up not taking the fight. Now he's ringside for Alexis Roche, taking pictures with Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins. People that do not work well with the PBC. And you guys can say what you want about the fact that they're making the Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia fight. But in a situation with Ryan Garcia, you have a guy in Ryan Garcia that is avid. That is, excuse me, I'm probably using the word, who is adamant. That's what I'm looking for. Adamant about making the fight with Gervonta Davis. Pushing to make that fight with Gervonta Davis, and it is very obvious that feeling is not mutual with Oscar De La Hoya. So now you're going to have him go over there, or at least talk about going over there. And what Oscar De La Hoya was talking about in his interview was trying to do 3 fights with Terence Crawford, one being Alexis Roche, the other one being Virgil Ortiz, and then we can work towards and finally get that done with Terence Crawford. Finally, you want to finally get it done in a year and a half from now? Yeah, we want to finally get it done at least a year and a half from now. Alexis Roche, at least 2 years from now, because Terence Crawford has only been fighting once a year. You're looking at December. So you're looking at him fighting again in December. Alexis Roche just fought, right? So say Alexis Roche fights in January, and then he doesn't fight for another 10 or 11 months into the the October-November time frame. Then you're going to go win to Virgil Ortiz. And then from Virgil Ortiz, then you're going to go to Errol Spence. Where's Errol Spence going to be at this time? Errol's just going to sit around and fight and stay at 147, waiting around, hopefully that Oscar De La Hoya will make a fight between him and Terence Crawford. No, that's not going to happen. So sorry, Tim. Terence Crawford isn't trying to make this fight. Because if he was making at least we will know. Let me be fair. We will know that if he takes that deal, that he is absolutely not trying to fight Errol Spence Jr. As if him turning down the fight and saying it's never going to happen last time they tried to make it wasn't evidence enough. But if he goes and agrees to some 3-fight deal on DAZN with Golden Boy, Man, please. He's literally running the other way from Terence Crawford, from Errol Spence. And last time I checked, he said if he wasn't fighting Errol Spence, he was going to go fight Jermell Charlo. How are you going to make a Jermell Charlo fight over on DAZN? Man, y'all need to just come up off this stuff, man. Bud is Bud. And Tim Bradley, that's his guy, I'm sure. But, man, ain't nobody else got to buy that nonsense. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.